Metro Area Governors Island Coalition, M.A.G.I.C's press conference regarding the lawsuit to overturn the 2021 rezoning on Governors Island, which, anyway, and the hearing for that actually is this Thursday, February 8th, where M.A.G.I.C wants to thank all kinds of people, our legal team, John Lobert, Chuck Weinstock, who wrote the amicus brief. Thank you very much for Chris Marte and people who signed on to that. Alicia Boyd, who will be speaking in a little bit, who is one of the early mentors of M.A.G.I.C. And still is, actually. And the media who's covered this, and of course Chris Marte's office. And there's a bunch of sign-on groups that would like, you can go on the website and see that there are many, that's page one. Like over 70 groups, community groups signed on to our sign-on statement back in the day, and still are in touch. So thanks to all that. I'm Roger Manning, co-founder with Allie Ryan of Metro Area Governors Island Coalition, M.A.G.I.C. I'm a native New York State resident, lived in New York City since 1982. My first visit to Governors Island was that same year. The mission of M.A.G.I.C is, it's a group of individuals and community groups in support of maintaining Governors Island as the natural public resource that currently serves millions of New Yorkers as a safe pastoral experience for the city's children and their families, and provides space for environmental, educational, arts, and historic projects, and fitness and recreation. We came together in November 2020 during the ULURP process for the zoning that we're now challenging. And as most of you probably know, Governors Island is a 172-acre island, 800 yards off the tip of Manhattan. Originally used by the Lenape people for hunting and gathering and such things. And then the U.S. Army and Coast Guard was there for quite a while, and then the city obtained the island in 2003. There's a 2003 deed which defines what the island is to be used for and tries to offer some protections. A lot of people work very hard to make it a public resource. The lawsuit aims to nullify this rezoning that would compromise that. The Trust for Governors Island has done a lot of great stuff. They really have over the years. There's a bit of a turnover in management, but they're not perfect. For example, look at this. It's a little beat up, this poster, but this is from the Trust for Governors Island 2020, their vision of what Governors Island be. We've highlighted the sort of the newer thoughts there from that, but that's their image. And look at this right here. That's the tallest building on Governors Island right now, Liggett Hall, and it's just dwarfed. And this isn't the precise plan. This is what would be allowed to be there. This is their vision. So we're saying, hey, no. And basically what M.A.G.I.C's trying to do is get the city back on track with the vision that people worked so hard to put together in 2003. And Governors Island is not Roosevelt Island. It's not the Brooklyn Navy Yard. It's not Hudson Yards. These are all projects that people higher ups in the trust have actually worked on in the past. It's not any of those things. And anybody who hasn't been there, anytime you want to go, M.A.G.I.C will take you out for a tour.
Hello, everybody. In 2003, as I think most of you know, the federal government deeded Governors Island to the city and the state, and it subjected it to deed restrictions, which, quote, were intended to ensure the protection and preservation of the natural, cultural, and historical qualities of Governors Island, enhance the ability of the public to enjoy Governors Island, and increase the quality of life in the surrounding community, the city, the state, and the United States. I don't know if that really does it. I would say no. So, in 2010, the state and the city issued a master plan in 2011, by which time the city had taken it over. There was an EIS. These documents describe Governors Island as an island like no other, a carefree island. Oh, there we have it. Yes. An island that allows visitors to leave the big city behind. Exactly. An island of vast water and big sky, and no less than 15 times in the EIS, it describes the 360-degree views that a visitor would have from the highest point in Governor's Island, which was the 70-foot high hill that is in that green space there. But just as nature abhors a vacuum, the city administration abhors any open space that isn't developed to the maximum. So in 2016, the city dumped this vision in favor of a mega dense real estate development, which you can see there, greenwashed by a Center for Climate Change, which, by the way, I think everybody here supports, but we don't feel it requires 260-foot high buildings. So now, instead of an island of vast water and big sky and 360-degree views, Mayor de Blasio in 2016 described Governor's Island as, quote, the site of a sweeping economic development project to support the city's economic recovery that would create 8,000 jobs and an estimated $1 billion of physical impact for the city, all on Governor's Island alone. Well, that's too much. He proposed zoning amendments, or actually the trust proposed them, the city proposed them, to facilitate, quote, the development of a new 24/7 mixed-use campus, which would double, or did double as approved, the square feet of development that were contemplated in the master plan, allowed building heights equivalent to 26 stories, multiple times higher than the highest building that's there now. Whereas the deed restrictions prohibit industry and manufacturing, the zoning as approved allows them. The deed with narrow exceptions prohibits residential uses, the zoning allows them without limit. The deed requires 40 acres of parkland to be dedicated in perpetuity, and the city's zoning provides 0 dedicated in perpetuity. There's parkland, supposedly, but it's open to industry and manufacturing and all kinds of uses that are not consistent with parkland. So, our lawsuit says that the city cannot flout its legal obligations, and I hope the court will agree with us. I think it should. We'll see on Thursday. We'll get an idea. I hope you all come to the argument. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. My name is Layla Law-Gisiko. I'm the president of the City Club of New York. The City Club is a civic organization founded in 1892 to advocate for good urbanism and good government. And today, I stand with friends and allies to denounce both bad urbanism and bad government. The City Club signed on to an amicus brief to support the fight against a terrible rezoning of Governor's Island that would allow bulldozers to roll in, skyscrapers to go up, as you can see here, and industrial uses to be developed. Governor's Island has been described as a gem, a haven, a respite, facing the high density of our city. We're surrounded by it, which is why we're in the shade, by the way. Governor's Island stands in the New York Harbor as a green refuge dedicated to recreational use, a public space meant for the enjoyment of all. When the federal government retroceded the land to New York City, a deed restriction memorialized the nature and the purpose of Governor's Island, and you have the quote here. Further, it was meant to preserve the natural, cultural, and historic qualities of Governor's Island, but the city violated the spirit and the letter of the law by introducing and ultimately approving a rezoning that permits dorms, apartments, skyscrapers, and industrial uses. In a participatory democracy, the people's voice is supposed to be part of policy making. But despite vehement community and civic opposition, the city adopted the rezoning. Governor's Island extreme rezoning echoes other projects like Brooklyn Bridge Park and Little Island that are part of a broader narrative where government seemingly works hand in hand with private interest to redefine the use of our city's precious public land. The focus, unfortunately, is always on the economics of parkland management at the expense of space access for the public good. In recent years, we've witnessed a concerning trend in the collaboration between our government and private developers, a trend that puts commercial interests above. With this rezoning, our legal foundations are being shaken. The rezoning, as John Lobier explained, violates the deed governing Governor's Island, a deed that requires the perpetual dedication of the specific acreage for parkland. It sets a precedent that directly conflicts with the sanctity of public open space. And while some believe that it is an isolated case, think twice. This rezoning, as part of many others, is an assault on our public assets and will amount to death by 1,000 cuts. What we're witnessing today may be cut 500th, but nonetheless, the end result is death. So we have a duty to speak up. This rezoning must be fought on its own merits because it is a direct violation of a deed, and the city acted in an arbitrary and capricious fashion. But this rezoning must also be fought for the precedent that it sets, a precedent that may be used in the future to invade our most cherished parkland. We cannot let that happen. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alicia Boyd and I represent Brooklyn. And of course, we've had our own struggles against development and parkland and garden land in that community as well. And so what we see is a pattern all over New York City where you are coming in, you see the sun, you see light, you see air, and then you decide that now you want to see shade, you want to see. And they violate the law constantly. They always talk about environmental concerns. They're always telling you how they're concerned about the environment and how we're going to protect the environment. But these monstrosities that are being planned are not for the protection of our green spaces, and it's not for the protection of our people. It is for money. This is big money. It's always about money. It's always about economics. It's never about people. It's never about our right to land. It's never about our right to air. It's never about our right to have sunlight. This is the right for them to use every public asset to gain money. And this is a pattern. And I'm so glad that we're talking about setting precedent, because this is setting precedent. If you cannot honor a fucking deed, what are you gonna honor? You're not gonna honor anything. It's written in the fucking law. It's in the ground. A deed is the ground. It's written in the ground. And you are saying, we don't care what's in that ground. We don't care what the forefathers said that this land was supposed to be about. All we care about is money. And as long as money is the root, we will violate every law. Yeah. And we have to stand up. And I also am talking about the appeals court, for God's sake. When is the appeals court gonna step in and say enough is enough? Well, this is the case where the appeals court should come up and say, enough is enough, New York City. Yeah. You have to abide by the laws in New York City. You have to protect your green spaces, New York City. You cannot give it to developers. You cannot give it to big real estate interests. You have the right and you have the responsibility that's embedded in the law.
Yeah.
That says that the earth and the sky and the air belongs to the people. Yeah. It belongs to us. And it's up to the appeals court to step up and take this case and send a message to these greedy developers that enough is enough. Governor's Island you cannot have. It is not yours to take, and we're not letting you take it. This belongs to the people, and we are going to give it back to the people. And we're going to allow people to have green space and air and light. Because once we give this out, what do we have? We got shade and concrete. We need our green spaces. My ancestors knew that and they fought. And we need to stand here and fight too for Governor's Island. We need to make sure that our voices are heard. We need to beg the appeals court to please take this case and send a message to our elected officials and send a message to these developers. Not every land is for sale. Thank you.
Hallelujah.
And thank you for all the community groups that are out here today. We have people from East River Park, 250 Water, people from Brooklyn over here. There's like the Brooklyn section. And of course the City Club for always standing by the people and being for the people. Because this is gonna take a coalition. We're all here because we know what the worst case scenario is. We can look at this map. When we look at this map of Governor's Island, we see that it's only for developers and not the people that actually cherish the space, that uses the space, right? We know that there is a climate center going on, Governor. I'm gonna let these trucks. This is the worst case scenario, right? This is what nobody here and no one who has ever been to Governor's Island wants. And this is what we're fighting. We're not fighting the climate center. Yes, we want the height to be lower, and it should be lower and more spread out to meet the nature and the contextual environment of Governor's Island, but we don't know what's next. And I think our city has manipulated the process of the climate center to say, look, the community is part of this process, is part of our RFP process, but for every other development, we have no say. We have no way to stop it. We have no ways to minimize it. And as we see, they can break the laws that exist right now. So the zoning that is there now, how do we know they're gonna respect it if they can't even respect the deed of the island? Exactly. And so that's what we're fighting here today. We're fighting to make sure that the laws are abided by and that people keep the green space that we desperately need. Every summer, we have extreme heat. Every winter, we have extreme rain. And we continue to ask what the city can do. And one thing the community have asked, it says, please don't touch our parkland. The same way they would never touch Central Park, the same way they won't touch Prospect Park, they should not change Governor's Island. Because people who live in Sunset Park and Lower Manhattan, that is our green haven. And so I'm here, and I supported this amicus brief to show that we're here to fight, and we're here to fight to win. Thank you. I forgot to add this, but we have amazing organizations on Governor's Island. We have Earth Matters, we have Grow NYC, we have the Billion Oyster Project, and our fear.
High School.
Yeah, and and our fear is that once big development comes in, these guys get pushed out. We already started seeing it with the potential movement of Earth Matters, and so this is not just a fight for the land. This is for the fight for people who are actually doing the work and meeting the moment when we're trying to create climate justice all throughout this city. So just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that.
Thank you. Yeah, as we point out in the M.A.G.I.C, always pointed out, there's already a climate center on Governor's Island. It's been there for quite a while. The Urban Farm with Earth Matter and Grow NYC, Billion Oyster Project, NYC Audubon, the Harbor School. But M.A.G.I.C came up with an alternative visualization that provided a pool fitness center for the Harbor School in a particular spot. And the Trust in the City stole our idea, and it's going to happen. So they should steal more of our ideas. Just we've always supported the Harbor School and all the groups on the island. Okay,
so East River Park Action, the people in East River Park Action know how devastating it is when all the trees are chopped down for a quote-unquote resiliency project. So we were probably not the first greenwashing project of the city, but we are a greenwash. This is a greenwashing, and so is what's going to happen to Governor's Island if we don't stop it. And I guess the only other thing I want to add is that we have an Instagram page, and on our page there are about 6,500 followers, and the words that we see the most often are ecocide, tragedy, heartbroken, devastating, and not resilient. So that's about all I have to say.
Okay, I'm Vice President of Bowery Alliance of Neighbors, and we've been fighting various things all over the city, including the state's oldest road to keep it where it is and have preservation happen, which works and doesn't work, so we know how the city works. What I want to say here is a kind of a historical fact that has been mentioned, sort of, about the deed restrictions and Lenape land, and we know how that goes, don't we? Deed restrictions and Native Americans, it's not really, going to fly. And this is just another instance of that. As a matter of fact, the American Indian Community House, which I'm connected to, has a building and does events on Governor's Island. And they would prefer it to be, obviously, the way it is. And to take away parkland from the city and from all the boroughs and from the state is just devastating. So I'm hoping for this lawsuit to go through, and it should, because it should. That's all I have to say. Okay, thank you.
I'm Michael Kramer. I'm the president of the South Street Seaport Coalition. Oh, so, we've been following this for 20 years probably. And, we always expected that there was a small development zone, but that small development zone has been enlarged by it. We certainly, I always looked at the World Trade Center, and they used that as a justification for building those buildings. And then they couldn't find any tenants that were involved in international trade. So Governor Rockefeller just filled it up with state employees. And I have a feeling, the greenwashing that was just referred to is the same thing, using climate as a sphere of development. Community Board 1, I know I can't speak for them, but I can tell you that they came out with a strong resolution against this. They suggested that 300-foot height be reduced to 125 feet. Now we learned it's going to be 250 feet, but it's still twice what it should be to be contextual. Community Board 1 talked about the need to designate the open space, as it's called now, as New York City parkland, so it really gets the protections that it needs, and that's something that we would advocate very much as well. At the Seaport, we're fighting what we call inappropriate development. How can you take 3- and 4-story buildings in the historic district and allow the Howard Hughes Corporation to put up a 26-story building that violates every rule that the Landmarks Commission has ever written? But the Landmarks Commission narrowly approved it. Judge Engoron, who looks like something may be happening today. I see a lot of media people here. He agreed with us, and we thought we won the case, and then it went to the first department of the appellate, and that's where all the lawsuits go to die, all the community lawsuits. And so now we're waiting to hear from the Court of Appeals up in Albany to find out whether they will hear our case and whether they will uphold the law. And the rule of law is pretty important, and hopefully it'll still be important after November of this year. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ruis. I'm with Assemblymember Deborah Glick's office. I'll read her statement. It says, downtown residents have long faced a conundrum. We love our neighborhoods, but are faced with a lack of open space that impedes our health and well-being. Although Governor's Island is not in my district, it has been a much-needed respite for all residents of Lower Manhattan, providing a green space that is both beautiful and an escape from the density and crowds that exist in our communities. The Governor's Island rezoning was pushed through with limited community engagement during the height of the pandemic and approved despite there being no clear justification for chipping away at a beloved park to promote egregious development. I hope that this lawsuit is successful in overturning the rezoning and ensuring that the beauty and uniqueness of Governor's Island is maintained.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Christine Dimmick. I live in Battery Park, I've lived in the Seaport, and we also lived down on William Street when we moved here from Chelsea. I'm a speaker for public health, and I'm an author of a book called Detox Your Home. And I'm very interested in what affects our health, because I'm a breast cancer survivor. I had it 10 years ago, and I'm fine, thank God. But I've lost many friends in their 40s to cancer. A study just came out from Harvard showing persons that are closer to nature are healthier, okay, mentally and physically. And living down in Bowery Park City, I have seen Wagner Park destroyed, absolutely destroyed. I live over it, and they called it resiliency. I've seen East River completely destroyed. And we all live down here, and we know this wasn't really a residential area until recently. And we have a beautiful park called the Battery, we have the Wagner, we have East River Park, and we have Governor's Island. And isn't it a surprise here that they're trying to take that away? When they see that we come down here, right? No surprise at all. We come down here and we live here, and we bring a new vitality to the downtown area. And we have Governor's Island, and now they're going to take it away and try to monetize it. And we see it again and again. I believe it's Alicia that had said, you know, it's money and power, and it is always money and power. So we cannot let them take this away. We absolutely can't, because if we do, we set a precedent, and they're going to do it again and again. And they're already doing it, calling it resiliency. I work in climate. That isn't resiliency. That was a big construction park. It was a big construction project that Hochul did. And let's also take it to the top, because we're talking about the city, but we also need to look upstream. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.